How's it going, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Mentor Moments. My name is Brayton Wooters, one of your co-hosts alongside Dr. Michael Kiener. On Mentor Moments, we take the time to interview counseling professionals and personal mentors. As you know, this season we've been chatting a lot about leadership, technology, career development, and counseling as a profession. We hope you enjoy this episode of Mentor Moments and keep tuning in.
Shifting gears a little bit, I want to talk about AI.
Let's do it.
AI, what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do. If there's rules to this, I don't know. As a clinician, it's hard. I won't go too much into detail here on this episode, but like just some thoughts have been kind of coming up in my brain about, for one, where does AI and like ChatGPT fit into like a clinician's toolbox? Is there a place for it in our toolbox? Or should we just like steer clear of it, but just stay away from it for right now until we have a better idea, I guess. It's kind of a loaded question, but
yeah.
what are
well, I guess it's interesting, I think over the last year, I've been asked to do 3 ethics sessions for different organizations on sort of ChatGPT or AI and ethics, right? And, it's interesting, almost every single week there's a news story, right? And so to answer your question, I would say we should be cautiously optimistic. It's here. I did a quick, ironically enough, well, what's the short version of AI? And they talking about like a philosopher of Plato was talking about sort of the possibility of artificial intelligence. So like it's sort of been with us since, I don't say the beginning of time.
Yeah.
But then they even talked about maybe 1900s when we had these sort of robots that were sort of like toy type robots, that could do it. Then sort of maybe in the 1950s to 60s to the 80s was really the start of computers being able to, like gaming computers, chess being a chess master, a chess computer being a chess master. So again, it's out of the box, it's here. How do we sort of use it? Again, maybe that's why we have ethically or optimistic or cautiously optimistic. So that's a long answer to that question.
Yeah, I've heard somebody like refer to it as like basically just like a calculator, right? Like you punching in the numbers in a calculator does not make the math less of math, or like you're still doing work per se.
What's one of the benefits, right? It's supposed to free up time for us. In some, that would be like when I hear from a workforce development is AI we should be able to automate tasks that gives us more time to focus on, more important things, or like maybe from a counseling perspective, working with our clients. That being said, there's also sort of AI chatbots that have been shown effective to sort of a placebo that, students or whoever texting in a response, getting something back. So again, there's somebody else monitoring that in case things go awry. But that's ethical. Where would we, and maybe that's what you're getting at, where would we still use AI in the counseling profession, and where does it become a gray area where maybe yes, maybe no, and then definitely no, right? That's a great look you have on your
whenever we talk about this, it's so hard because you said cautiously optimistic, and in my brain, I'm just cautious right now. Like, it's hard for me to find like I'm feeling good about this, because in my brain, I'm like, I so desperately, and part of that is a me thing where I love my black and white, and I don't like things to be gray sometimes, and I love to know what I can and what I can't do, and I haven't.
Well, like I think I'm trying to use it now. How can it make me more efficient as a professional? And so one of the things that I have downloaded on my computer, and it's not all that new anymore, but it's called Otter AI. I am not endorsing it. I'm not a paid sponsor.
Paid promotion.
It's a application that sort of plugs into Zoom or another video conferencing that records what is said and then makes meeting minutes.
Oh yeah.
and you can then do action items, and there's a summary and whatnot. And I know we sort of talked about this earlier. I found that because I am trying to find an AI mind mapping application where I can just spout all my ideas, and the AI from whatever the large language models makes connections to research or these other concepts to put these are similar, this is a little farther away, to help me organize my thought. So again, to me, when you said calculator, that it's making our life better, I want some kind of device that I can talk into it that could organize my thoughts. And Otter AI, in some ways, I played with it without a meeting where I kind of talked about this thing, and it gave me a very basic definition, so I wasn't happy. Then I took that summary and put it in the chat GPT, and I said, well, expand on this, show me some connections. And so then it sort of, instead of making a giant summary, it analyzed it, it cut it into pieces. Okay, here you're talking about this, this, and this, and this. So I'm still working on that.
Just don't put client information.
Right. Well.
Right.
Right. Well. So, I mean, we talked about this earlier too. That codes of ethics aren't even the 2022 codes of ethics really doesn't have most maybe not have a specific standard on chat GPT or other generative. So we need to look for those underlying principles. So again, when using any kind of technology, we need to make sure confidentiality, right? We don't, there's always a risk of breaking confidentiality or somebody hacking into the system. So when we put data into chat GPT, we don't own that anymore. So yes.
Which I think is something that it sounds like a duh thing when we're saying it out loud, and I forget that all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm typing in this question, and that's going, who knows where? I signed something.
Right. Yeah, that's why it's free.
I clicked the box somewhere.
Yes.
I know I did. Oh my gosh. I'm thinking technology, and this was something that you and I had talked about very briefly after our previous episode, where we were still talking about technology, and we were talking about just how culture has changed. Our ideas around assistive technology has really kind of opened up, and I remember feeling a little angry. And I think it was coming from maybe a quote unquote good place, but I was coming to this conclusion, and tell me if I'm way off here, that our culture around assistive technology and for the use of helping with those with disability is very much changed or affected by those that are mostly able-bodied. Am I going? What are we? Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay.
I have a thought, but keep going.
Example being things like Uber and Lyft, right?
Yes,
that
yeah.
one, being that for those that can't drive, yeah, awesome. It's way more accessible, super there's an app for it. It works fairly well, and I have this belief, and I could be way off, that its increase in productivity, its increase in growth was by people that could drive, by people that maybe had the ability to, maybe not in that moment, but had the ability to drive. And there were other examples that were brought up. I think, I don't know, you might have to help me.
Well, I think, again, people in power have the access and opportunity too. So when we think of alternative transportation systems for people with disabilities, it's sort of stigmatized, and there always seems to not have enough drivers or enough vehicles. And there's always horror stories of the person waiting outside for 2 hours in a snowstorm, and then nobody's coming, and they have to be out, you have to give them such a window to say, I need to be there by 3 o'clock. Okay, you need to be ready by noon, and we'll pick you up by 2:30.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so although in general, technology gives access, but does access mean the same thing for everybody? And maybe what I was also thinking when you're talking about Uber or Lyft or those other, how many of those, I think it is getting better. I don't want to overgeneralize or get sued by Uber or Lyft, but is there, how many vehicles are accessible to get somebody to use a wheelchair, right? And again, obviously there's different levels of can somebody transfer out of their chair or they need to stay in their chair and whatnot, but just that accessibility. And I wonder how many people with disabilities are Uber drivers. Like, I'm thinking, like that gig economy, I have an accessible van, I can drive, can I drive other people? Like, is there...
And is there a market for that? Like what a niche, niche.
Well, I also think too, like again, we say technology increases accessibility, but only if you can afford to have the technology, right? And if we think that people with disabilities sort of are unemployed, X number of times greater than the normal non-disabled population, can they afford it? Do they also have maybe internet access or high-speed internet access? And so there's still, it allows more access as long as you can afford the access. Or if you live in a rural area, maybe they can afford it, but the companies haven't brought the high-speed cable and all that to other areas.
I'm trying to remember the story that you shared, the first time you saw an iPad in class.
Oh yeah, well it was one of our former students who had a spinal cord injury, and so to me that was a positive, because of the ease of the touch screen, you didn't need really fine dexterity, right? You could use it. It was obviously a little bigger than did iPad come out before the iPhone? iPhone was first, right?
Yeah.
So even if there was some non-fine, it could still be used. I mean, again, I think I also learned a lot from, again, going back to what we were saying in a previous episode. I'm a little older than you, so learning about all this technology from the younger generation, from another positive perspective. You are teaching an old dog new tricks.
Well,
I was somebody that didn't have a cell phone basically until the iPhone.
Are you for real?
Yeah, I did have a flip phone, but I never, when growing up, I couldn't afford one, and then I just didn't need one. So a friend always had one.
Do you still have a landline?
No.
I got scared a little bit.
So that's a whole nother story. We can go into it because the cable companies make you bundle everything. So we might actually be paying for it because it's cheaper to pay for it than to not pay for it. But we do not have a number you can call anymore.
Oh my gosh, like a rotary phone. You're like I know it.
But again, like we didn't cut the cable, but we're getting closer to just doing everything via streaming.
Yeah, you don't. You still have cable?
Well, we use YouTube TV, so we don't have cable that way. But I have to pay cable to get me the internet, which I think we're going to more information than you need to know. But we may be trying to get another internet provider than cable.
Where were we? I'm trying to backtrack. Okay, we were talking about
accessibility.
Oh, accessibility. Going down that same rabbit hole of technology. I did a training a while. It was like more than a year ago on digital play therapy. I got an Xbox in my a Wii. I've got a Wii and an old Xbox 360 in my room, and
that you still play every night.
Right. I actually brought it here. Yeah. No. If I had $1 for every time I had a kid come into my room or into my office and want to play Roblox. Do you know what Roblox is?
I do not.
We'll talk about it later.
Right.
We'll have an episode about it.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll have an episode about Roblox. But I've had clients that will ask and want to play video games on my laptop, and I'm like, no. And it's actually been really, really helpful knowing how to do those things and how being able to use digital devices for therapy.
I want to know what you're, we talk about digital natives versus digital immigrants. So a digital native is sort of people now who are born that they only know technology. They don't know life before technology. So you're probably a digital native, right?
Without a doubt.
Or I'm a digital immigrant where I sort of came into this world.
Gotcha.
But there's going to be a point where, again, you're going to be in this chair and you're like, I'm using a smartphone. Wow. And, it's going to be in your glasses or in that. No, hope not. It will. And I want to be there to see that.
I think by then I'll be like a digital nomad. At
Nomad,
that point,
yes.
and just like cut off everything.
Yes, you're gonna
and
be,
just like be off the grid.
Do you watch YouTube? You watch your YouTube videos?
I do.
Okay, I didn't know if that was
those.
too.
Yeah,
cool.
I've got those.
There are videos of like solo campers, like just going out into like Canada, anywhere, and like camping by themselves in like minus 30-degree weather. Like, so going off, maybe when you said go nomad, made me think of going off grid.
Yeah, I mean, I think about. Oh man, I was on something right. Addiction. We're getting way off track.
No, well, for those of you that are listening, I am pointing at you. It's something else I learned from a fellow student.
Okay.
And when I used to teach research methods, you had to do an intervention. This student, now I'm blanking, it was pre-pandemic, was studying, like internet addictions and gaming addictions and things that like, is that a thing, so.
And I'm not an addiction specialist, so I'm not, it's a little out of my wheelhouse, and like, these kids, like, they're addicted to it. Like, the technology is getting real.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I am.
Do you think you're addicted?
Well, just scrolling on, and I know there's the negative, the doom scrolling, but like there are times where I'm like, or two young kids talking about spending hours on TikTok just watching those little videos.
So, I think that there's a difference between that, like I feel like that's quote unquote normal.
Normal addiction.
We're getting into some touchy territory, right?
Where's the definition?
And I mean, like I've got it's difficult for some of my clients that like legit are like different people with and without their iPad.
Yeah. I'm not that. Again, obviously I always want to know where my phone is for lots of things, but I'm not.
Yeah. I think that might be the end, where the end of my thoughts are. Anything else on like...
Well, I wonder, again, this episode has been more us teasing each other and giggling and laughing, which is fine, but I guess if there's a mentor moment when we take back, how should we use it? And I know I alluded to this already, is my take home when I've been doing the trainings, do we have enough training that we can say that we're competent or effective using the new technology or intervention, regardless, right? It's technology or doing a new EMDR or place therapy, whatever that is. And again, that's ambiguous in the code of ethics, right? Like they say we need consultation, training, education, but is that one session, 5 sessions, a whole new degree in?
Mm-hmm.
We need to look for sort of this underlining ethical principle. So again, are we benefiting and not harming, especially with technology? Is there a risk to communicate, confidentiality? And so to me, those are we effective in it? Is it helping? And what are the inherent risks? And then we can decide to use something or not.
Yeah.
And sometimes I know I'm getting back off the mentor moments, but like when I first joined Facebook, I never thought about, okay, now if I don't want to use it, how do I take down my profile or those pictures or everything? I know there's more conversation about that now, like the permanency of social media.
Yeah, I get it. And this might, I don't know, I feel like where I'm coming from is like scaring people. I don't want to like scare
You can be.
people.
Everybody
Right,
knows I am the 3/4 full.
Right.
And today because you're normally you're pretty optimistic too. So
Yeah.
but today you're the
Today I'll take the role of glass
half empty, and you got a hole in it.
And there's and it's draining water
Yes.
quickly. I have had like at least twice now on occasion a client, like whether it be a high schooler, telling me, "Hey, I Googled you." So just be aware that it's not even young people. It's not. It could be anyone. They could Google you. Did you know that first of all, if you look at someone's profile on LinkedIn, it tells them.
Well, that's the premium. Like I don't have the premium. That just for me, maybe you need to show me how. It just says somebody has, but then I have to buy the premium if I want to figure out who it did.
give yourself a Google search.
Right.
Look at what's
that's
up.
good practice
You know,
anyways.
look what's up there, because
Right.
you might find a really embarrassing photo of you from middle school,
Right.
where your hair is like super buzzed and you had just won the honor roll, which I mean is great, but you look a little dorky, and your high school client might make fun of you. So keep that in mind.
That's a good food for thought. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
We were just trying something different.
And you know what? I've put the idea out there. I'm curious if any of you that are listening has a question. We might do a Q&A. I don't know.
We want to do a Q&A.
I would love to do a Q&A.
Ask us questions. All right. Well, thanks for listening. As always, we're excited to continue on with season 3.
Keep listening.
Keep listening.
Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Mentor Moments. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere that you're listening to this podcast. Be sure to follow us at Mentor Moments on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And we will see you on the next episode of Mentor Moments.
Are you ready for a career that makes a difference in your community? Consider becoming a counselor with Missouri Vocational Rehabilitation.
Vocational rehabilitation counselor helps people who have disabilities find a career path that helps to use their strengths. When people have the supports that they need, it makes anything possible.
I am proud that I'm able to help people change their life and reach for their dream goals.
Discover the change you can make. Visit mvr.mo.gov to get started.